Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to another edition of the Toxic Happy Hour, where we are toxic towards scams that delay the adoption of global sound money. Today we have breaking news, and that is that Pubby actually is a sock puppet account for the true pop lord, which is of course Greg Foss, which is either owner or partner of 8 Pops, Irish Pops in Canada. So yeah, this is a guy we look up to, obviously, because we have good taste. So welcome, Greg. And what is a true pop lord, owner of 8 Irish Pops, drinking on a Monday morning? Oh, and we lost you. We lost you, Greg.
In a span of 1 minute. We can't even go 1 minute, Anders.
Audio was working fine. So fine in the green room.
Yep.
It went from like this.
Yep.
Greg, we can see you. We can see you, but we can't hear you. But this is the Toxic Happy Hour. Chat is expecting nonetheless. Let me write it to you also in the private chat. We can see you. We can't hear you.
Yeah. So admittedly,
Anyway, so yeah, what's going on, Pubby? You've been ousted now as a sock pocket for Greg Foss. Well, he'll be back.
No, he'll be back in just a second. And it's funny because in the chat, we're getting that same age. He's I think he's 57. He has put it out before.
Anything?
And I tell him, Yep. There we go. We're good. He's back.
Boys, I'm sorry, man.
Yes.
Everyone. Hey, how's it going? So I heard the question. All right, can I go on it now?
Yeah.
The answer
is,
go for it. What am I drinking? So I'm from Canada, and you guys understand that Canadians always go double-fisted, right? And I was given a I watched Jimmy's song when you asked the same question. So I'm coming at you with 2. This is a great Montreal beer called Saint Ambroise. It's a micro pub in Montreal where all my pubs are located, 8 Irish pubs, and we were one of the largest sellers of Saint Ambroise. It's a street in Montreal. And then the second, because Canadians always drink double-fisted, I'm drinking Sierra Nevada.
Yeah.
That's a great beer from San Francisco. People who know it. So cheers to boys. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And I'm going to try. It's a nice amber ale. I'll answer all your questions, and I'll get more relaxed as the beer flows.
So, Sierra Nevada, never heard of it, by the way.
Love it, my friend.
Totally unscripted, honestly.
A number of things, including the hat. The hat is unscripted. So you guys put the hat on my head. So here it is. I'll tell you why it's unscripted. This hat, called Arx Novum, is my good buddy Sean Cumby, who we worked together at 3IQ. He was the CIO of 3IQ, and he now has this Arx Novum as one more ETF that's in the line for Canadian Bitcoin funds. But a very short story, Sean Cumby is the only reason that there are any ETFs in Canada, because we took the OSC to court. We actually challenged them in court to allow a Bitcoin fund as an expression of freedom of investment. Mr. Cumby put 5,000 pages in front of the Ontario Securities Commission to win the argument. And I believe that the US guys are chomping at the bit and chomping their arms off because Canada beat them to the ETF market with a Bitcoin fund once again. And when I say once again, because Canada was where the first ETF was ever launched anywhere in the world, was Canada. So anyway, small story, Arx Novum, Bitcoin, beer. Let's hit it, boys.
All right. So we were like gonna just like beat around the bush for a little while, but you just brought up the ETF, and I mean that's really interesting because US of course have been trying to avoid that for years now. I remember the big fuss about it in 2017. People were expecting it. So I heard you say something on John Wallace the other day that right now, so the premium in GBTC is gone. Well, it's not gone. It's went from positive, like you pay an overprice, to now being negative. You get a discount. Am I right?
So you said GBTC. There's the best Bitcoin dashboard that I know of is called bitbo.io, bitbo.io. and you can actually get real-time prices on that dashboard for all the exchange-traded funds. And when I say exchange-traded funds, they trade on an exchange, but they're closed-end funds. So they are subject to premiums and discounts, exactly. Bitbo.io, 2 Canadian guys out of Ottawa. And this just crushes it as far as I'm concerned, because I've probably traded 25 different lines of the closed-end funds today in Canada. You know, it's not like I'm throwing huge money around, but at the end of the day, if someone's going to give you Bitcoin for a 10% discount, you know, you're supposed to look at that and say, that's dumb. And secondly, I wish I had $10 billion and I'd wave it all in, right? At the end of the day, markets are what markets are, and they trade at either stupid prices at times or very stupid. So what we have is Bitbo.io shows this premium or discount. Some of these funds have traded as high as 25% premiums, and exactly right, are now trading at a 10% discount. And to make matters even better, you can put them in a tax-deferred account in Canada, and essentially the government pays you 50% to buy Bitcoin at a 10% discount. So yes, very proud to be part of QBTC, which was the first exchange-listed closed-end fund, raised about $1 billion, and I think we've helped Canadians make about $500 million because they had the ability to get exposure to Bitcoin in their deferred tax accounts.
Nice. But that means you have a truly functioning Bitcoin ETF that is trading like on par with Bitcoin's price. Like, you're not paying a premium, you're not getting a discount, but you're getting through an equity vehicle exposure to Bitcoin. But so GBTC, because you were talking about this in John Wallace, Vallis, it's
Thank
right
you.
now it's trading at a negative, isn't it? Like
it's very close. If you were to look at GBT's, at Bitbo right now, I think it's around a 1 or 2% premium. But you're right, that was as high as 85% premium. Now let's do some quick math, okay? That fund is a $30 billion fund, $30 billion US. And if it's trading at a 10% premium, that means that there's $3 billion of mispricing. I love this, right? I love this. This is what makes markets and arbitrage so exciting, because that's a $3 billion opportunity. The flip side is QBTC, which is our fund, and I'm full disclosure, I am no longer a shareholder of 3IQ. I did sell my shares, and one of the buyers was a London-based fund manager who you're going to know very shortly. Anyway, you know who he is. He's going to be doing a public offering. All good. I sold my shares. The point being, when QBTC, our fund, is trading at a 10% discount, and it's $1 billion fund, that's $100 million right there, ladies and gentlemen, sitting on the ground right in front of you. And you can pick it up and hedge it out using futures, or you can actually sell. You can sell the Purpose ETF, which came and raised almost $700 million in 5 trading days, which trades exactly what you were saying, Danish, at right on net asset value, because it's a real ETF, creations and redemptions every night at 4 p.m.
So yeah, let me jump in on this, because hey, other shows, guess what? You've got 5 minutes of sponsors, 3 minutes of your background. We're not talk about 8 minutes in. Damn, we're only like 3 minutes in, and we're already getting almost to the point where we can talk about the Contango. What's going on there?
We could do that. Let me ask you guys some questions. Some questions. First of all, how do I say each of your names properly?
Danish, do you want to go?
I mean, you can call me Danish. You can call me Anders.
So is your real name's Anders, but you call yourself Danish because you're a Danish holdout? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then Pubby, you're Guy or Guy?
Guy, but you know, it's a long story, but grandparents and my father both named Guy. We had a family friend from many generations back. The oldest boy in the family was named Guy. So I get to carry that tradition on, and we'll talk about traditions later. But Pubby came out. I love pubs. I thought pubs were a great way to have a theme around Twitter, the way to change the world. And of course, you own them, but that's where the best ideas are exchanged. This is how we change the world, is in a pub over a beer.
100%, bro. Because here's what I know. I grew up in Quebec, right? And there's no guys in Quebec like the name. They're all Guy, right? Guy Lafleur. Yeah, Guy. One of the greatest hockey players ever. So, and then they joke on CNBC. They have Guy Adami, right? You know Guy Adami on CNBC, if you guys watch it. Well, they joke his name, they call him Guy when they're trying to get him from the Canadian side. So yeah, everyone in Canada generally is a Guy Lafleur, Guy Lapointe. Anyway, here we go. Here's a question. Has Greg tried shawarma from tahinis yet? Yes, man. I love tahinis, and I need tahinis to take over our 8 pubs in Montreal so that we can expand in Montreal with the tahinis restaurants. Let's go.
Let's go. LFG.
So I'll tell you what. Yeah.
Let me just jump in.
I love that. Oh, here we go.
Real
go
quick.
ahead,
I just want to let it to be known that henceforth you'll be known as G. But back to you, Pubby.
Well, no, the French is Guy, not
G.
Good. Okay,
it's so good.
So what was fantastic is to bring up a classic player from the 70s. This is how quickly we start and how fast we go off the rails. My aunt, I remember growing up in the 70s, was a Philadelphia Flyers fan. I grew up outside Philadelphia. The Broad Street Bullies, man. So some great rivalries there. But yeah, aside from Bobby Clark, her favorite player was Guy Lafleur. So
nice.
The rest of my family always called me Guy, but my aunt called me Guy Lafleur. And I said, who's the flower, of course. But I said, who the hell is who's Guy Lafleur? Why did she call me Guy Lafleur? Everyone calls me Guy. And now we know.
Okay. So here's another. My father-in-law played for the New York Rangers, original 6 hockey team, and his picture is hanging in a wall of fame in Montreal, an arena in Montreal, right beside Yvan Cournoyer, who you guys may or may not remember, but same vintage. Anyway, my father-in-law's picture standing hanging in the Lachine Arena, and if you go right to his left, to the left side or the right side, you see these famous guys, famous hockey players that came out of that small town in Quebec. So anyway, nice to meet you, boys. Here's what I do know. You guys have been tremendously helpful to me. I am 57 years old, so this is what we need to remember. I have seen a lot, but what I don't know is technology. I don't know, how an iPhone can possibly be as powerful as it is. And yet, as we said, Guy, that we coded. I graduated my first university degree having never used a personal computer because it didn't exist. I coded. I punch cards, MCs or music, C++, punch cards, basic, COBOL. Are you kidding me? And now we have this stuff going on. I got convinced to invest in Bitcoin very simply in 2016. They only had to show me one thing, and that was tradeblock.com. And when I saw this thing of beauty called the blockchain in action, I was sold. I'm like, I get it. I'm visual. I get it. It's absolutely a brilliant and beautiful invention. And I did not get the scarf notice. You guys are hilarious. So at least I did some work. Hold on.
They are.
Oh man.
So
what I'm talking about.
I don't get it. What does this mean? What does the scarf mean?
You're taking over. Look. The scarf is armed for what? Is it armed for what? 60K or something? I don't know. The chat will tell us. But
I'll give you the scarf background.
Number go up.
So as an American, I travel quite a bit overseas. 4 months of the year I get to travel. I'm familiar because I have to transit through Europe mostly. The style is for men to wear scarves and all of this. So we show up we start doing our podcast, and Anders is wearing a scarf, and it turned into an inside joke. Well, now I bring the American scarf into the equation. So we just have fun with it. Très bien. Très
Well,
bien.
luckily I did do some research because I saw Jimmy Song said I needed to know what I was supposed to be drinking, and his story about his tequila shots and everything like that. I guess we've all had a few of those, haven't we? So good work, Jimmy Song. I'm a huge fan of yours, and I'm a huge fan of everybody from Bitcoin Twitter, because it, in my opinion, is just about the coolest resource I've ever come across in my life.
So I want to, it's great here. I like to be, I don't want to say unconventional, but everyone else would start out the first 10 minutes with the history. So I think it's great that we could just sort of work out a bit of what's in the news to begin with. So just a quick recap, because I know you've told the story ad nauseum. After university, you were going to be you went for engineering. You end up working for the Royal Bank of Scotland. You're figuring out their debt problems with Mexico and the Brady plan. But the one interesting thing I've heard you talk about was you found out, or you discovered, you almost pulled back the curtain on the Wizard of Oz, and you discovered that, my God, the place I'm working for is insolvent. And the only way out is because we can print money. And what I find fascinating about that angle is you also have such a brilliant family with military history, which I come from. And I think back over 100 years of great-grandparents and grandparents fighting for what they believed in, this freedom of money, this freedom of choice. And I came to the first time I discovered the horrific nature of what the Federal Reserve was, it really made me think back to all the sacrifices my ancestors had done and what they believed was a true currency. So I was going to ask you, so when you discovered, you're working for this company and you realize all of a sudden, as you call it, it's a Ponzi scheme. What were your thoughts then? And especially, what were your thoughts when you think back to everything your family has sacrificed over the years?
Oh, thank you for the intro. So yeah, really quickly, you did say Royal Bank of Scotland. It's close. It was Royal Bank of Canada. I got you, bro. Listen. Canada's largest financial institution, Royal Bank of Canada, was basically like every other money center bank in New York and Europe. It was insolvent because it had made 5-year loans to Latin American countries, as well as other lesser developed countries around the world. Why were they doing this? Because the petrodollars were prevalent and they needed to put their loans somewhere. The Brady plan came along. Treasury Secretary Nicholas Brady realized that all the banks were insolvent. The financial analysts did not realize the banks were insolvent, but Mr. Treasury Secretary Nicholas Brady did. My project was, right out of business school, I came back to Montreal. I was an engineer at McGill. I went down to the U.S., came back went down to the U.S. at Cornell University. Pretty cool school, learned a ton, came back after having studied finance and decided I wanted to work in Canada. Worked for the largest financial institution, and I did a quick math. My project was to determine what Brady plan option we were going to take for Royal Bank of Canada. We had $1 billion. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot of money in these days and times, but $1 billion back in 1988 was a ton of money. In total, we had about $4 billion to lesser developed countries, $1 billion to Mexico, $1 billion to Brazil, and about $2 billion to other countries like other South American countries, but also including countries like Vietnam, Philippines. To make the math easy, the average trading price, and it didn't trade much in those days and age, but they were trading, was about 25 cents on the dollar. So if you were to mark $4 billion of exposure to market, meaning $4 billion of loans made at 100 cents on the dollar and are now trading at 25 cents on the dollar, you need to take a $3 billion write-off, right? It's what every trader would have to do. The difference is banks don't have to do that. They do not have to write their loans to the market. That being said, I said, well, I might as well look at this on a macro basis. So I'm examining $1 billion, but I better see how the bank is stacking up here in terms of its overall exposure. And lo and behold, Royal Bank of Canada did not have the book value of equity to cover the $3 billion loss. Why then did Treasury Secretary Nicholas Brady design this? Because he had to, because the entire global banking system was insolvent. Every single bank worked on the same principle, about 25 times leverage. So let's fast forward. They didn't do it. They changed a 5-year loan into a 30-year obligation backed by U.S. Treasury zero coupon debt. It was a brilliant, brilliant structure. And we had about $1 billion of exposure. And I went to my boss, who was the CFO, and I'm like, Emil, this is crazy. This stuff is so cheap. We need to buy some. We need to buy some. We need to buy it because it's going to go back up. And what, of course, do Canadians do, or most bankers do? No, we've got enough exposure at 100 cents on the dollar. Thank you very much. We're not going to buy anymore. And sure enough, it didn't just go back to par, but because of fixed coupon bond math, it actually traded well through par or parity. And yeah, that hits home because Guy, you mentioned my history, and we've talked about this. My granddad was a World War I fighter ace. Yeah, man. And he was awarded the Order of the OBE, the British Empire. So Order of British Empire. And I mentioned to you, I had this crazy story. He was flying over Italy, and he had a German fighter in his sights. And the German pilot puts his hands up, okay, and points at his gun and says, "My gun is jammed." His machine gun on the front of his plane. So my granddad points to the ground, fly down to the ground. They land in Italy, in a field in Italy. The guy jumps out of his plane with a pistol, a German pistol, drops it on the ground. My granddad runs over, rips the German machine gun off the front of the fighter plane, literally rips it off physically, takes the guy's pistol. They shake hands and say, "I'll kill you next time," legitimately. But right now, this counts as a termed a fighter kill. Okay, so I grew up in Montreal with a German machine gun World War in my basement. Okay, we finally donated it to the Canadian War Museum, and my sister still has the German pistol, which is a really, really cool artifact as well. But here's the neat thing. That's what my granddad and your granddad fought for, right? There was honor. Yep. There was, look, they didn't put themselves in that place, right? There were crazy people running and managing the company. And if you guys have ever listened to Jordan Peterson, who's a really, really good Canadian psychologist, there's no way anybody in Germany would have stood up against Hitler, okay? Despite how much you say you would have. You guys, you get indoctrinated by their stuff, okay? It didn't make that other fighter pilot any like an evil person. He basically, they shook hands. They know they're fighting this crazy, crazy war, and now we're giving our future of our kids away because it's all built on this fiat trust system. Lots in there. I throw it out to you that, guys, yes, we've seen a lot in our histories, and I'm very proud of what my granddad did. I'm a proud Canadian, and I need this for our kids.
Listen, man, you're right. There's a lot in there, but it shows right there, and this is what's great about being the taco plebe. And yes, I will say plebe until I die. What it shows is the taco plebes. We know, everyone knows where it's at, man. We are the ones that will shake hands on the ground because we see the system above us. We see what's going on. We have the honor. And guess what? Bitcoin is our way out. Bitcoin is our currency, and we will figure it out as we go.
So here's what I'm just learning here. So I got to be watching you guys, and then I'm watching these things come across. So I'm not even a smirk at the Moose comment, but you see, where am I supposed to look for this Moose comment? And I'm not too cool for happy hour. I just don't know how to work happy hour. All right. Like,
just look in my eyes. Just look in my eyes. That's
that's what I'm doing. So a Moose comment meaning what?
So there is. Let me find the Moose comment for you. This was a question by the late legendary Marty's Owl.
Marty's Owl. Does Greg ride a moose to work? No, actually, Canada and the city I live in here, Toronto, is actually the second largest city in North America. Okay, it's actually bigger than Chicago. Now, that's weird, and people aren't even going to believe me, but it actually is true. The greater Toronto area is bigger than Chicago. The problem is Canada is a country about 100 kilometers wide and 5,000 kilometers long. And we're so lucky to live right next to the most powerful and richest nation on the in the world, in the United States, with the world's longest undefended border. Okay, but that's what Canada is. So yeah, we have some big cities up here. And if I went 100 miles north, yeah, I see moose. Yeah, that's fair. I see moose. I see bald eagles. Yeah, that's all good. But I do know this, that Toronto is punching way above its weight in the Bitcoin community, or Canada rather. And I'm proud of that.
Hey, I went down the list, and I'm sorry to tell you this, but I think you're like number 6 in line of Canadians we've had on the show.
Cool.
John Vallis, also Ali from Tahiti's in there.
Beautiful.
Benny BTC. We've had. I mean, you guys are, like you say, per capita, you are Bitcoin number 1. You guys are really taking over. I love it.
Well, and I'm proud to be part of that. And Ali lives he's in a town called London, Ontario. It's about I'm going to say a 2-hour drive. Yeah, he has a great business there. John is in Newfoundland. If you need to talk to people about moose, Newfoundland is like the land of the crazy moose. So that's John Vallis. BTC Sessions and Ben. He's having a kid, which is so cool. So congrats, Ben. And then out on the West Coast, I don't know if you guys have ever talked to Jeff Booth.
Are you kidding?
Okay.
Are you? Oh, really? Is that
comes the story.
Is that what we're gonna do? Oh,
okay.
We had
so this is so good. The best book. I'm going to say this out loud. The best book I may have ever read is Jeff Booth's Price of Tomorrow. Okay. So here's my chance. I want to put this one on the screen. You guys heard of this guy?
Magic Internet Money. Jesse Berger.
Okay.
I'm saying it right.
Canadian, Jesse Berger. You open the first page of the book.
Yep.
What is money? Okay. What is money? And by Lord, who does he quote? Fix the money and you fix the world. Marty Bent. Okay. Yeah. Page 1, first paragraph.
Yeah, from Marty.
The book is awesome. Okay. It's pretty thin, but I bought 50 copies so that we could distribute it to the Indigenous communities in Canada to appreciate what Bitcoin could bring to the Indigenous communities in Canada. Okay. Separation of state and money. All this stuff is amazing. This book is a really, really great read. And it's written by a Torontonian, and we go on various podcasts together. So there's my pitch for Canada. Yeah, let's go.
All right, let's go. Greg, I know we may not have a chance to revert to the ETF, so I want to do it really quick. So you have QBTC. It's a Canadian product. 2 questions. What is your admin fee, and is it possible to buy it from a stock account in US? I'm sorry to make it boring.
It's not even boring. These are great questions. And the answer is it's a 1.95% MER, management expense ratio. But the Purpose ETF that was just launched, that's been a huge success, is down to 1%. And then another ETF that was just launched cut their fees from 125 basis points to 70 basis points. So Canadians are really good at getting something done, and then we just blow ourselves up and give all the fees away. But that's good for investors. It's not great for the unit, the equity holders of the fund management company. Yes, you can buy it as a non-resident Canadian. It's more difficult, but there are certainly platforms that offer you that advantage. Again, I've sold all my shares in 3iQ. I'm moving on to more what I believe is a better use of my capital, and we'll talk about that later in the show. But I wish those guys nothing but luck. It was an extremely brilliant victory, and there's only one guy responsible for it in my mind, and that's Sean Cumby. Okay, he again is he was the CIO. There was an issue. They had to part ways, and it was unfortunate. But Sean is going to rock the world going forward.
Awesome. I don't know about you, Puppy, but Greg just says we can later talk about where he puts his money. I'm interested. I'd love to hear what he likes to invest in now.
No, absolutely. We'll talk about that. it's tough when you find a guest that you respect their views and writing so much and their podcast that you listen, and there's always the common theme of starting with the natural history. Hey, where did you start? How did you find Bitcoin? I wanted to come from an angle at the time of, let's just admit that the patient is dead. The patient is dead, and we're trying to hold oxygen on it. And the patient is being the world economy. And as you said, you know what? It's basic math. The game's over. Okay, it's like you have $5,000 in interest payments, and you're earning $100 a month.
That's all it is. Over. It's only math, guys, because the numerator, if you the metric where you compare the credit quality of any borrower tends to come down to a very easy calculation. It's called interest coverage. How many times your cash flow covers your interest obligation? Makes sense, right? If you can cover your interest obligation at like 6 times, well, you're not going to default on your obligation. 6 times interest coverage is extremely good. The equivalent metric for governments is total debt to GDP. Why? Well, total debt is an interest obligation, right? The GDP, though, is what pays your tax base. So if you compare total debt to GDP, it makes sense on a country basis that the higher the total debt to GDP number, the worse your credit quality is, right? Because okay, so very simply, it's impossible to escape this debt spiral right now because our total debt, government and corporate debt in the top line is 3 times global GDP. That means if the top line is growing with an average coupon of, let's say, 3%, well, 3 times 3% is 10%. That means your tax base in the denominator has to be growing the GDP at 10% just to keep pace. Guys, do the math. It's impossible. Because if it does grow at 10% in GDP, it means we have inflation. It means that the coupons in the numerator are going to start increasing. And we are in what's called a debt spiral. And we have been in a debt spiral. But ultimately, the fiat currency is the only thing that solves this mathematical equation. And I call it the error term. The fiat currency is the error term. You need to keep printing fiat currency to solve this debt spiral. Math is not that difficult, okay? If you understand it and you look at it this way, we are certain, it is 100% certainty to be debased. That's 100% certainty. The problem is, how long will it last before people say, I don't want any more of this? And that's the scary part.
Okay. I love this because my favorite interviews with you and Marty Bent, I remember in the beginning he says, "Hey Greg, it's okay. You can stay 5 inches from the microphone because you get passionate. You're passionate. I get it, man. I absolutely. Yeah, you're in. Look, man, you're in there. You're dropping truth bombs, and when you drop truth bombs, yes, you get passionate, as I do.
I'm scared. I'm passionate and scared because this is our.
I'm with you, man. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. You know what, Andrews? You haven't talked in a while.
No. I thought you were done, Puppy, but carry on. I don't want to interrupt you. Sorry. Just carry on, son.
Because here's what's fantastic about this, and people don't realize. And I know you actually were generous when you said it's 3 times global debt. It's actually like 3.6, probably heading to 4. I think you mentioned. No.
Okay, so let's be honest. I did that calculation before COVID. Okay, I don't even want to do it now.
I know.
Did the calculation now, it would be so outrageous that it was over before. Okay.
Yep.
COVID's the only thing that it's the balloon. It's the pin that pricked the balloon. Okay. It is absolutely over. If someone debates that, they have failed Math 101. If you need to fail Math 101, Pubby being a Nazi. Okay.
About sound quality.
So this is so funny.
Here we go.
No, all good, guys. Here's what I know. Okay. Don't fear math. Do not fear math. Math is the base language of the world. Okay. Yeah. It's like Bitcoin is the base language of money. Math is the base language of the world. it is truth. Okay, math is truth.
Yep.
And the politicians don't understand it. So they may pass a lie detector test. That's true because they're too dumb to understand it.
And that's what we talked offline a bit because we were talking about Nick Szabo earlier. If I can bring this up, I think it's interesting because he was making a mockery of math is now racist because people their heads are so buried in the sand. They don't want to admit that 1 + 1 = 2. There's no way Bitcoin can be right. There's no way that the government is wrong. There's no way this is happening. Because if you say it now, you are, I guess, sort of downgraded to just a hater. Okay. You see, you try to tell people this is what math should be, and now you're told it's not.
You know, sorry. Can I say this? I love these comments. Keep spitting, Foss. How do they know I'm spitting? Because I definitely am. I love you guys. Yeah. Like I have to clean my keyboard off after this.
Oh, we're professionals. That's why we're professionals.
Yeah. Greg, I want to revert back to a thing you were saying before that because of the death spiral, the only way for governments to get out of that is by printing more. So what do you give of a probability that, say, the US dollar will default due to this negative debt spiral and the increasing? Because, I mean, one thing is you can start printing more money to pay it off, but the thing that will give, I'm presuming, is the trust in the currency. And therefore, I guess sooner or later, lenders don't want to take on that debt.
That's what happens, Anders. That's what happens, and I get where you're coming from. Let's say this. I'm going to give you a probability, but not a time. Okay, so I'm 100% certain they will default. 100%, and by definition, what is a default? They may give you money back, but if you take that money and shovel it to the curb, like Venezuela, that's a de facto default. Okay, I can't tell you when it's going to happen, and the US will most likely be the last sovereign nation to default, but Canada is in big trouble. Okay, I did a paper, and you guys may have heard about it, where I value Bitcoin using credit default swap insurance for sovereignty. Okay, this is what I grew up doing for 32 years, is trading credit. It was logical for me to try and figure out what Bitcoin, as the purest anti-fragile, the purest form of monetary energy ever created, would be worth for people who are worried about sovereigns defaulting. Well, all you have to do is go to the market and see what the markets are paying for default insurance on various countries. And the US is in pretty good shape. It's about 11 basis points for 5-year protection. But my Twitter handle makes reference to this, okay? Not Twitter handle, but rather whatever you call that thing where you describe yourself. And I said in 2006, you could buy default protection on Lehman Brothers for 9 basis points, which implied it cost you $9,000 a year to insure $10 million of Lehman debt. The cool thing is, 3 years later, that $9,000 premium was worth $6 million. And everyone said Lehman could never default, and they did. And Bear Stearns would have defaulted as well if JP Morgan didn't bail them out. And by the way, all the financial system would have defaulted as well if the Fed didn't do Troubled Asset Relief Program, the TARP program, TARP, you know it. All we did in 2008, 2009 is transfer financial leverage from the banking system onto the balance sheets of federal governments. All we did is kick the can, guys. We never solved anything. We didn't pay down that debt. Oh, by the way, COVID hit.
So is this a fair assessment? I mean, let's go back to the dot-com bubbles, housing bubbles, 2008. Everything gets kicked down the road. But once you get to the sovereign bubble, there's nowhere else to kick that damn can. There's nowhere else to go.
God, there's Bitcoin. That's all I can say. And Bitcoiners are optimistic, and they generally are solving a lot of the world's problems. Thank goodness for Satoshi and 12 years ago that this system is mature enough now that you're seeing people. I don't know if you guys saw today, Dan Loeb's fund is looking at putting money into Bitcoin. Citigroup report, okay? One guy just very smart. U.S. defaulted twice already from Realstream.io. You're totally right, guys. Default can occur without a formal declaration of a default. When you're a debtor and you get something back that's worth a fraction of what you lent to them, but hey, it's not a default. I'm sorry, but I'm calling it as I see it. A default is as the default was, okay?
So I made a joke earlier in March on Twitter, as always. And looking back, I was a dumbass for not following up as much as I should have. And this is March. I said, if you had a $10,000 loan, would you buy some Bitcoin right now? And it was like, nah, you know, you had 25%. Yeah, I believe. Looking back, it was and this is just like at a 10%, you know, rate of interest. And people that at the time were saying no are now looking like, Jesus, if I had $10,000 back in March right now or could get a loan, I'd be all in. So what I'm asking, even now going forward, we can do we'll do projections on the match, but I'm laughing at $50,000 to be it's cheap. This is just
rounding error. Like, you know, all this stuff about laser eyes to 100,000.
Yep.
At 100,000, it's a rounding error, you guys. I'm not really sure why we're focused on 100,000. This is the cheapest insurance I've ever seen in my life. It's like house or fire insurance on your house. Okay, you don't buy it and sell it. You own it as a hedge that some maniac's going to burn down your house, including yourself, perhaps. But at the end of the day, I will always, for the rest of my life, have a core position in Bitcoin. And yes, I do trade it because I'm a trader and I trade core positions, but I will never have less than a 10% of my entire net worth in Bitcoin. Okay.
Interview over.
No, it's not simple. The best asymmetric trade I've ever seen in 32 years, because I think that Michael Saylor, when he says it hits 5 trillion, when Michael Saylor says it hits 100 trillion market cap or $5 million of Bitcoin, I think the probability of that happening is substantial. So why am I worried? Why are we doing laser eyes to 100? That's all cool. At 100, you better not sell. Anyone who's selling at 100 is missing the bigger picture. Okay, Go ahead,
Greg. You just said I totally agree, but you are just mentioning that that you do a little bit of trading, so you'll not be trading it at 100. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, I'll trade if someone's giving it to me for 10% discount. Okay, I'll sell it out of something where I can sell it for parity and buy it at a 10% discount. That doesn't mean I don't keep my core holding. Someone's giving me 10%. I'm not an idiot. I picked that 10% up. Okay, that 10%. That 10% is because the market is stupid. And I've spent 32 years realizing, yes, markets can get stupid. The time they get the most stupid is when the plumbing of the credit system starts breaking down, okay? And this will bring me to another story that I wanted to share with you guys. So in Canada, there was this structure that was in 2007. It was actually the precursor to the financial crisis globally. And it was a structure called leveraged super senior asset-backed commercial paper. There was 32 billion of it issued into Canadian pension accounts and Canadian university endowments. And it had this mystical AAA credit rating, which was total garbage. I would not wrap fish in most credit rating agency reports, okay? So they had this mystical AAA credit rating. There was 32 billion of it issued into Canada. And the largest fund in Canada, the Caisse de dépôt et placement du Québec, had 16 billion of it, or 10% of their assets. Now, they hadn't done the math. There was U.S. subprime mortgage exposure in this structure, but it was about 3 cents on the dollar. The Caisse stopped rolling their paper, and $32 billion of this market froze overnight because of U.S. subprime concerns, and it went from 100 cents on the dollar, and it traded down to 20 cents on the dollar. Okay? I was working at a hedge fund with one of Canada's best equity traders, a gentleman by the name of Mike Weckerly, and Weck and I were able to recycle this paper from 20 cents on the dollar all the way back to 100 cents on the dollar. The problem is we weren't big enough. We were only a $400 million fund, and there was $32 billion notional, 32 billion face value available to buy. It didn't all come for sale at once. But here's my story. So I was over in Prague, Czechoslovakia for a hockey tournament with my son. It was a world championship summer hockey tournament. And I'm in Prague, and one of these packages, restructured packages, comes up for sale. And this makes me laugh because it's right now, you guys are at like 8 o'clock your time, something like that over there in Europe.
Oh, yes, if I was in Europe. I'm back East Coast, Anders, so I'm on your time.
Where's Anders?
I'm in LA, Los Angeles.
Oh, you are as well. So for some reason, I thought you guys were Europeans. Okay, so anyway.
Probably the scarf. Okay,
it could be. So anyway, I'm in Prague, Czechoslovakia, all right? And I know who the seller is. It's a large pension fund in Canada that has hundreds of millions of dollars of this structure for sale. Now, they're too smart by a half because I knew that they were the seller. We had to walk them through what we think the trade is worth, but they won't sell it directly to us. No. They got to go through JP Morgan, New York, because JP Morgan, they understand everything in New York. So certain enough, the trader at JP Morgan tracks me down. I'm in Prague, Czechoslovakia. He says, Fosser, it's live. I got the order. So I know who the seller is. They will not sell it directly to me because they need to pay JP Morgan to execute on the best price. But JP Morgan comes to me because I'm the best bid in the market. So JP Morgan calls me up. Hey, Fosser, we're going to trade hundreds of millions. And it's trading maybe, call it 30 cents on the dollar. So I'm putting probably 60 odd million dollars at work. And it's 8 p.m. European time. And okay, you're done. And I'm like, wow, that's a great trade. I think I'm going to make a lot of money on this. And I go down to the banquet hall at 8 p.m. at night, where the hockey banquet hall. And I'm like, yeah, I just did the biggest trade of my life. And then all of a sudden I realized, holy shit, the market in New York is still open. I got to get back to my computer and actually lay off some of this risk. So I'm trading in Prague, Czechoslovakia with a guy in New York from a fund in Canada that sold it to me in Czechoslovakia through New York. And I'm laying off some of this risk. And long story short, these bonds that were sold to me at, call it 35 cents on the dollar, because there was 3 cents of US subprime mortgage exposure. Yes, it did mature at 100 cents on the dollar. Okay, so these are how connected the global financial markets are and how stupid money can be. But it's a global marketplace, and I love it. It's fun, and there are mispricings that happen on a daily basis, and you have to be in the game to understand the game.
You obviously, and that's what it comes down to at the end of the day, is when you understand the mispricings, you're going to make a fortune. And Bitcoin is the ultimate mispricing,
right? Like, sometimes the market's bigger than you are. The funny thing is, and you see things like GameStop or whatever, all these hedge funds, of which I used to be one, they are absolutely right on a valuation basis. What they got wrong is 140% of the float had been borrowed. And these smart Reddit guys just did math and say, hey, let's squeeze the shit out of these guys. And this happens because they're bullets. All these millions of people in the US that just got a check said, hey, our bullets are more than the hedge fund bullets. And it's supply demand. It's not always who is on the right side of the tree.
That's such a great, listen, we're freewheeling here, man. And I never think about sometimes what we're going to talk about, but I don't think too often anyway. But I would say this. Hey, let's go back to so what do you
Can I just say one thing? Sorry, Brett.
Go ahead.
I just saw something come across. Foss and Bitcoin Tina should be on this. So I've been in touch with Bitcoin Tina. He lives down in Florida. He and I used to work in the same markets. Okay. He's a harsh dude, right? He calls it like it is. And I love it because it's true. Markets are truth, okay? Don't mess around. If I think, I may not think the world of Ethereum, but I'm not going to tell you that it doesn't work because someone's paying 150 billion or $200 billion for that market cap. Far be it from me to tell you guys, hey, it doesn't work. I'm telling you, the market is telling you something's going on, and it might be wrong, but do not tell the market that they are wrong unless you're prepared to pound it down to zero. Back the fuck off, right?
Hey,
Yeah.
is that all you got? Count it down to fucking zero. But you're right, and I'll tell you, and this is something I told a friend of mine, and this is years ago, and you brought it up on a different podcast, and I said, you know what? The truest market in the world is a black market, because the black market will tell you exactly what that product is worth. They don't bullshit around. They're not subsidized. That you go to the black market, this is what you get.
Okay, and you're totally right, because that's the freest market there is, and that's what's beautiful about Bitcoin is there is no intermediary. It is the purest form of voting. All these big boys that are yelling that it has no intrinsic value. Hey, Peter Schiff, I'm sick of you hearing until you tell me you are short the fucking thing. Shut up. Okay?
Agree.
You've been wrong for so long. I'm actually scared when Schiff turns his opinion, because you're supposed to turn your opinion, right? If the facts change, you change your investment portfolio. So Schiff, if he had a brain, would actually turn his opinion. Spencer has the brain, and they're playing us like a fiddle here, right? This whole theater where Spencer's getting it and everything. These guys are pretty darn good, but to do it for followers, I mean, come on, who's the prostitute in the room? At the end of the day, you have lost so much money for people who actually believe Peter Schiff knows what he's talking about. Peter Schiff does not know what expected value and probability analysis are. Okay? You have to always approach every trade with a probability distribution. And that's what makes me so excited about the probability distribution of Bitcoin is so far asymmetric to the right-hand side. You are taking excessive risk by owning zero. It's that simple, guys. It's only math.
It's only math. I want to, and this is something I was going to start earlier with, but let's get around a number. We're going to get around a number called 1 trillion. 1 trillion, which in your era, my era, I remember when you heard someone was a millionaire and you thought, Jesus, this guy is the richest person I know. $1 million isn't what it used to be. We throw around terms like a trillion, and hey, Gigi, if you're out there watching, I'll give this one to you. If you have $1 billion, you're still basically $1 trillion short of $1 trillion. People have no clue at the size of it, and I want to give context for what we're going to go into, because we're going to go into not only 1 trillion, we're going into 20, 30, 50, 900. Let's call it a quadrillion, if we're being honest. When you look at $1 trillion, or a trillion as a number, 1 trillion seconds ago, and I think Gigi had this in his book. Hey, shout out to him. Montreal was under basically 2 kilometers of ice.
Yeah, that's correct. So a trillion seconds ago is 3,000 BC, if I remember correctly, something like that. Okay. And a billion seconds ago is like, it's still crazy long, but it's a trillion puts it in context. Like a billion seconds ago is, what is it, 10 years or something like that?
No, because 32, 320, then 32,000. But yes, basically.
Okay, so here's all I know, right? Look, it's true. $1 trillion. They're printing $120 billion a month. The Treasury, right? So the Fed, rather, like, it dwarfs anything that we've ever seen, and people have lost context for what math is or what money, what these values are. Yeah, there's something called a quadrillion, and total global financial assets right now, by my calculation, is about 900 trillion, and that was before COVID. So if we get to a quadrillion, anyway, we're there already. With the Institute of International Finance just hasn't updated their numbers yet, But yeah, 900 trillion. I think this is where you're going. 900 trillion. I think the Bitcoin becomes the global reserve asset of the world, because I think energy will be priced in Bitcoin. It's just natural. Monetary energy for your natural energy coming out of the ground. So when when oil and gas is priced using Bitcoin, Bitcoin will be the de facto reserve asset of the world. So if the world has total financial assets of $900 trillion, this was pre-COVID, $900 trillion, is it crazy to think that Bitcoin could get 5%? Well, 5% of 900 trillion is 45 trillion. 45 trillion divided by 21 million is $2 million a Bitcoin. Sailor thinks it goes, it's so bearish. Well, here's the funny thing. It's at 40,000 right now, or whatever it is. Don't even look at the price, you guys. It pisses me off when people look at the price, okay? It's like, it's a rounding error. This is insurance. This is the cheapest insurance you will ever buy in your whole life, and I actually think you'll make a ton of money on it, but I could be wrong. You got to play probabilities.
Did you guys hear anything about Twitter selling convertible bonds? I woke up this morning. I didn't have time to go in depth with it. Is this confirmed that Twitter is selling? So they're
definitely doing the convert. The question is, are they putting the money into Bitcoin?
Correct.
Use of their proceeds should be there. Every single CFO in every single corporation in Canada should be borrowing fiat, fixed term fiat, and taking a portion of those proceeds and putting them in Bitcoin. It's called capital creation, capital preservation using fiat destruction. It's only math. The money you're going to have to pay back in 10 years is only going to be about half as valuable as the money you borrowed. So even on that metric, borrow the shit out of it, because all you're going to have to pay back is 50 cents on the dollar. It's so simple. It's so friggin' simple. Yet everybody thinks about it. If everybody put 5% of Bitcoin in their portfolio, so the other 95% was traditional investments, I promise you they'd be thinking about that 5% 100% of the time. They'd forget about everything else they owned, and they'd only worry about this 5%. And oh my God, it's gone down, like it's gone from 48,000 to 42,000. Gentlemen and ladies, stop overthinking this. You're destroying the beautiful fact that people are giving you an opportunity to escape this debt spiral. I think using CDS, I'm going to go out. I didn't finish my thought. CDS, using the CDS market, Bitcoin today, by my calculation, is worth 110,000 to 160,000 of Bitcoin, just using the default insurance market as a proxy today. The funny thing is, as credit default concerns increase, those spreads will widen, and that will provide more intrinsic value for Bitcoin. So you can buy it at about a quarter of the value that the credit default swap market is telling you it's worth right now. Don't overthink this again. Bitcoin is the anti-fiat. It's default insurance on sovereign nations around the world.
And it's wonderful insurance. Greg, I want to ask you, because you are the veteran debt trader, which means, I guess, bond trader. I'll give you a chance to pour your IPA there. Pubby, I'm just in the middle of a. Let me do this one question.
Oh, you had a question? I thought you were going on like a rant or something. All right.
No time for this today. We got Greg on. We'll let Greg do the ranting here.
Less of us.
First time I have been watching THH, and it's actually a lot of fun to watch THH. I can say.
Thanks.
No, but Greg, so this 100, 200 trillion, whatever it is, in the bond market globally. When do you think we'll see that starting to pour into Bitcoin? I don't know if it's as a cash and carry. You can actually get a 20% annualized interest rate if you put like on your fiat, right? If you buy Bitcoin today, sell the future, and then there's that cash and carry, so you get an actual interest rate. But anyways, as I understand, that is Contango that you have, but I may be totally wrong that there's two different.
Wow. Yeah. I think. Okay, so let's take a step back. Okay, so that's not Contango as I understand it, but I'll let you keep going.
Yeah.
Okay. No. All right. So let me. I'm wrong on that. But when do you expect the 100 to 200 trillion bond market to start moving into Bitcoin as a better store of value, as the risk of holding debt in fiat increases, when it's becoming more apparent that fiat may just collapse?
Sure.
So when will we see that, and will that be the?
It doesn't happen all at once. It's always a process. And look, Michael Saylor telling everybody to do it will get other people like Jack issues a convert bond today. His coupon on his convert is going to be very close to zero, okay? Yeah. Meaning it costs him nothing to borrow. And that's not because his true interest risk is zero. It's because it's a convertible bond and it's volatility. It's the convert arb guys that love the vol. They play equity vol, and they will strip out the value of the equity vol and reduce the interest coupon on that obligation down to zero because of the equity vol component, okay? Don't confuse yourself that Twitter would have to probably borrow in the area of, I'm going to say 300 basis points over straight U.S. Treasuries if there was no convertible component on this bond. But yeah, the smart thing to do when your stock is going up like Twitter's is and people are paying for vol, issue at a zero coupon vol, okay? Excuse me, a zero coupon debt. Will they use some of that proceeds for Bitcoin? I'm almost certain they will, given that they've already spent 170 million of cash over the last dip, right? So your question on Contango though is quite interesting. Let's not throw out big words, okay? Contango, the way I understand it, is just a normal sloping curve. Generally, futures curves trade in what's called normal backwardation. Normal backwardation occurs because it costs you money. That's right. Contango is when the future price is lower than the current price. No, that is not correct, actually. Contango is when the slope of the futures curve is upward sloping. Normal backwardation is when in the short term, in the front contract, it is higher than the long contract. So think of when oil is trading normally and it costs you money to store oil in a super tanker. If you buy oil out 90 days and that 90 days comes down to 30 days, that 30-day contract is more valuable because someone has paid to store it for 60 days for you. Right there, normal backwardation. Contango just means that the 30-day future is at a lower price than the 90-day future. Now, someone may have thrown out this thing called Contango on GBTC and hedging futures because GBTC premium on the fund was 20%. And Anders, I think that might be where you're bringing this 20% in. But that premium on GBTC has actually collapsed to zero. We've already talked about that. So all these hedge funds that were going out there, and what would they do? They would buy GBTC in a private placement at net asset value. They'd immediately be able to mark it up 20% because that's where it's trading in the open market. Then they would sell futures against it. They would hedge their position against Bitcoin, and they would lock in 20%, which over time would reduce down to where the futures contract rolled off, and they were able to liquidate their GBTC holding because they had to hold it for 6 months. So it was a game that this guy Cuppy, I'm not sure if you guys know who he is, but he was preaching this as free money. And yes, it was free money. Yes. Don't forget, it was in big size. It's a $30 billion fund. And at some point, it was 25% premium to its value. Let's do some quick math. Holy fuck, that is $7.5 billion of free money. Hedge funds are not paid to sit around and see $7.5 billion of free money not get taken advantage of. So maybe, Anders, that's the Contango you're talking about. In my world, it's a little misuse of the terminology.
I'm just trying to understand it, Greg. Thank you for the explanation, Puppy.
Yeah, so you're right. It was interesting. It's like you're buying Bitcoin, holding Bitcoin. You're on Bitcoin Twitter, and you say, "What the fuck is Contango?" And you start reading about it, and now you start to understand. What's fascinating for this year? Maybe you can give us. I always like to ask any guest on here. We'll go back to your year in review from where you were in 2020. In February until we are now. We'll get that. We've gone from, Bitcoin. Hopefully, we'll get a bit of the share of the $10 trillion gold market cap. And then all of a sudden,
as Saylor says, it's going to subsume gold. Okay, so if I'm a gold miner in Northern Canada, listen to me. This is important. Any gold miner out there in Northern Canada, you better start mining Bitcoin to hedge your gold risk. Okay, you've got all this mining capacity and electricity that you can actually use that electricity to mine gold, excuse me, digital gold or Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Because anything you're getting out of the ground has a chance of being itself debased. Okay, any miner in northern Canada that is mining and has excess electricity power, and all of them do, they should be mining Bitcoin. They should be mining Bitcoin and mining gold, because they're hedging their downside risk of gold. And that's only a $10 trillion market, okay? It ain't that big in the context of $900 trillion.
And that's sort of where I was going. You start there, and we're back in March. It's $5,000 per Bitcoin. And now look where we went. We went from there to Michael Saylor coming in and said, actually, you know what? this is a reserve asset I can put on the books. Oh, by the way, fuck that. I'm going to take a loan. I'm going to put out 5-year convertible bonds. So this is a
capital creation. I'm going to jump in your mouth. I'm jumping in your mouth. Here you go, guy. It's capital creation using fiat destruction. Don't overthink it.
I'm not overthinking it. I'm here.
No, I mean the CFOs don't overthink of it. I'm sorry. I was still somebody here said, I still don't understand what Contango is. Contango is an upward sloping futures curve. Okay, don't overthink this as well, you guys. It's when the 30-year futures 30-day futures contract is trading at a lower implied price, forward price, than the 90-day future. Okay, normal backwardation is the opposite. Go ahead, Anders.
Yes, can I ask you, Greg? So I got that down. The futures price of, for instance, Bitcoin is higher than the current price, as you have explained to us. That puts free money on the table. Oh, am I already wrong?
A little bit, yes, sir. You're a little bit. Again, it's the 30-day future price versus the 90-day future price. Draw a yield curve draw a graph. Where are 90-day futures? Where are 30-day futures, 60-day futures, 90-day futures?
Okay.
Normally in oil, the 30-day contract is at a higher price than the 90-day contract. That's called normal backwardation, and it's because it costs money to store oil. Bitcoin has an upward sloping futures curve, because think about that for a second. People think 90 days down, it'll be at a higher price than 30 days. It's just, it's a calculation. It's called Contango. It's like a yield curve for a government.
So my question is, because I would love to put these two words together, the Contango and the Satssqueeze, when we have Contango with a higher 90-day future price than the 60-day future price of Bitcoin, than the 30-day future price of Bitcoin, will that draw in fiat currency to buy Bitcoin and therefore create a Satssqueeze?
I can't go that far. I don't see that logic. Okay, I'm not sure how that works, and I'm interested if you can explain to me how that would work. But I don't see it off the top of my head.
Oh no! So this is let's just call it partly guesswork from my side. But if we have the Contango with a higher future price, the further we go out on Bitcoin, I am thinking that that more and more fiat holders would come in to make a fairly easy, as I understand, cash and carry, where they buy Bitcoin today.
No, I think I hear what you're saying. Is you're shorting the 30-day and buying the 90-day, and you're capturing that. If you actually looked at the real future price, we actually make it sound like there's a huge disparity. We're talking maybe $100. We're not talking thousands and thousands of dollars.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So yeah, that upward sloping, maybe see, when I say oil is in Contango, we're talking maybe $4 on a $90 barrel of oil, or $2 on a $60 barrel of oil. We're not talking hundreds. There's not that huge. Oh man, I'm so upset. Sebastian Stacking or Sean Stacking, I still don't know what Contango is. Fuck. What you need to do, you need to just go to a textbook and it lays it right out for you. Okay?
Oh, that's awesome.
Very simple. Go to Google. They'll explain it in a heartbeat. I'm sorry if I'm not doing a good job of it.
Oh, you're doing a brilliant job of it. Yeah.
Anyway, here's what I do know, guys. It's great that there's a derivatives market trading on Bitcoin because that allows Bitcoin miners. It allows Bitcoin miners to hedge their 90-day production, right? Think about that for a second. That's why it's important.
Yeah.
To sell forward 90 days your production so you can lock in your operating costs. Very important. That's why it's important that there's a futures market. Do not overthink this as to the shape of the futures curve and all of that stuff. That's like level 3. We're not even in the first inning, and you guys are talking about like triple overtime. Don't fucking think about triple overtime before we get through the first inning yet.
Okay. Question. So now we want to try and understand it. So when there's Contango on Bitcoin, does it have any effect on more people buying Bitcoin to chase a profit, or are we off and should we leave the topic? Or
I think we should leave the topic. I certainly don't know the answer. Again, I'll tell you why futures are valuable. Again, people use it to hedge production of Bitcoin mining. And as a Bitcoin miner, or a soon-to-be Bitcoin miner in my new capacity, I'm going to be very active in the futures market. And yes, I may be arbing the futures market, and heck, I may actually be arbing the closed-end fund market as well, with a big bag of futures and a box of mining and, you know, a beer at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And we'll just look at this stupidity and we'll make money off of the stupidity of the markets when they misprice various instruments.
Nice. Pubby, what I can tell you for sure is we're having Greg back on Toxic Caviar.
Yes, of course.
If I'm being kicked off, here's what I want to say. A big shout out.
No.
Big Sean Harris. A big shout out to Big Sean Harris. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's what's really cool. Okay. I used to watch that guy play basketball.
Yeah.
I swear to you, I remember him when he played basketball for Utah. Okay.
Why?
Because he's definitely got a pretty cool look about him. Don't you agree? Like the guy looks like he's a cool basketball player. Okay.
Kid and play.
So, Big Sean Harris, thank you for everything you guys have done.
Well,
thank you for getting me on the show. And by the way, I will say this.
Oh, we're not ending.
We're not ending.
No, I'm here for as long as you want me. I just want to say one last thing. There's a guy in the bond markets. His name is Mohamed El-Erian, right? You guys know who Mohamed El-Erian is?
No.
Mohamed used to work at PIMCO with Bill Gross. PIMCO is the largest bond manager in the world, and it got bought by Allianz. Mohamed El-Erian moved to Allianz over in Europe. Mohamed actually owns 10% of this company called Purpose, which brought the fund to Canada. Wouldn't it be cool if Allianz is actually buying some of the ETF in Canada because they own 10% of Purpose? Now, Allianz is one of the largest financial managers in the world. And Mohamed El-Erian was on CNBC this morning, and I'll quote, "Distorted interest rates are what we have in the market. The market is at non-commercial levels, meaning there's no free market discovery of interest rates." Mohamed El-Erian, who is one of the smartest bond managers in the world, realizes that the current yield curve for the US government is not real. If anyone like that thought for 1 second, he would say, I need Bitcoin to hedge against this. And I think he's already done that mental math. And I think he's like Mass Financial. Mass Financial owns $100 million of Bitcoin, but that doesn't even equate to 1/100th of their assets.
Yeah.
For people, and coming back to your thing, Anders, what happens if the bond market does start moving in that direction? It's not going to happen all at once, but the amount of money that needs to move is going to make our laser eyes. Wait a minute, I woke up this morning and it says $400,000 of Bitcoin. What happened to 100? I'm not saying it's going to gap up like that, but this is not about whether it's worth 50K or 45K. The money that could flow out of the bond market that's getting destroyed right now, the 30-year bond is down 23% or 23 points on 100 points in the last 6 months. That means It has lost 23% of its value, and it will take about 18 years of coupons just to make that back, that capital loss. And we haven't even started moving interest rates to where they should go. Anyone who owns bonds right now also failed mathematics, okay? You guys do not understand what duration and convexity is, because for the last 40 years, interest rates have gone from 16% down to 0.
Yeah.
If you do the reverse math and it goes from 0 up to 16%, those long bonds can go from par, where they were issued, to 77, where they're currently trading, down to about 40 cents on the dollar. How do you feel now? Your capital preservation policy, because I own bonds to preserve capital, has just lost 60% of its value.
You basically walked around the patient. You walked around the patient. You're the mortician, and said, "Yes, the patient is dead. The patient is dead from every angle."
And yes. And why does Foss look so mad? I'm not mad. I'm intense, you guys. There are $300 trillion of bonds being managed by people who have not experienced a bear market in bonds. I'm 57 years old. Interest rates have been going down my entire life. And I am just about as old as there are in the financial markets and still working, right? The rookies that are on the desks right now, they're going to get blown up so badly, and they're just not going to know what hit them.
So here's a question for you. So today we hear the news. Twitter comes out again. About a month ago, I never heard a thing about senior notes. But guess what? Here come these senior notes, and here's Twitter with senior notes. Is there an advantage for these companies to come out with senior notes to buy more Bitcoin, or is it just a sort of happenstance?
Hunter, so convertible bonds typically are subordinate obligations, and there's a capital structure where the senior debt, the bank loans, rank priority of claim over the converts. Okay, so your capital structure goes senior debt, subordinate debt, convertible bonds, preferred shares, common stock. Okay, that's a priority of claim, top to bottom. The guys that are doing the convert bonds, yes, there's a senior level or senior tranche that doesn't have any equity convertible optionality. But yeah, the bank will lend you money. It's right there, 5 years. They probably have an operating line of credit. That's what banks do. They provide backup lines of credit. Yes, absolutely. Tap that line of credit. Go out there, borrow money, and buy Bitcoin. Here's a funny thing.
I thought you were going to say tap that ass, man. I thought you were going to say tap that ass.
You're so funny. Here's funny. So de-objecto or abajecto, dabajecto or whatever, Gap Daddy Foss. This is funny. Is that the gap in my teeth you guys are talking about? Because someone said I need to have braces, and this is hilarious. I love you guys. I don't think I really need braces, but maybe on TV I do. So someone's calling me Gap Daddy Foss, and I'm not sure if that's because I trade the gap, meaning or gapping things go up, price gap or whatever. But maybe it's my teeth as well, so we'll go from there.
I don't think it's anything with your teeth, to be honest. I did not spend 1 nanosecond about. I think we're talking about the gap in somehow with the futures and the whatever.
All good.
As Sci-Flyer is saying, my beer price tomorrow is going to be more today, so I need to stock up.
Yes.
Dude, the chat is amazing. We love the chat that we have ourselves here. We do believe it's the best in the space. That's all I wanted to say, and then I want to give the word back to you, Greg.
So here's what I will say. Let's talk about that Nick Szabo comment to me.
Yeah.
I am not in the business of offending people. I apologize if I do. In fact, yesterday I pulled a bit of a Bitcoin Tina on a very sweet lady in Canada who came and hit me up on email at exactly the wrong time of day, asking me, not even asking me, but she just published some research on, she was focused on altcoins. And I'm thinking in my head, my God, the world's unraveling in the bond market, and this influential analyst in Canada is talking altcoins. And I'm like, we're missing the big picture, you guys. And I didn't give her shit. I basically was not complimentary of her research in an email just to her. Anyway, she was my second block guy. My first block yesterday was that other lady you introduced me to on your Twitter feed. I'd actually never been blocked before. I had to ask my kid, how do I block this other person? If she's going to block me, I'm going to figure out how to block her. All right. Yeah. So that lady was the one you introduced me to was the first one I ever that blocked me, and I tried to block her back because I'm going to really give it back. But here's the funny thing: I don't mean to insult anybody. And I get intense and I tell it like it is because I'm so scared for the future of my kids. I actually don't believe the politicians understand the pickle that we're in. So this young lady in Canada, I'm apologizing to you publicly. She did block me. This is a very influential financial analyst. This is my mea culpa to her because I was very rude to her. I don't mean to be rude. I just want people to focus on the elephant in the room. Altcoins are good, maybe. I don't know. I'll tell you what I know about Bitcoin. And if people aren't focused on the potential for a U.S. government treasury bond auction to fail, you're focused on the wrong shit, people. The equity markets are a goof. Equity markets are for kids. Credit markets is what sets the tone of risk in the world. If you're looking at equities, you're looking 3 levels down the capital structure. Fuck, no one gives a shit there if the top part of the capital structure is puking their brains out. Equities are the tail that gets wagged by the dog. And if you're looking at the equity market for any clues, you guys are looking at the tail of the dog. And the dog up here is being destroyed. And you're worried about this little thing down here called the tail. Please, please understand what capital structure is. Please understand that the credit markets are way, way bigger than the equity markets. And by the way, the people that operate in the credit markets, they tend to be a little smarter than the people who operate in the equity markets. That you can come at me. I will take all comers on that front, okay? All comers on the front. Credit markets always figure things out before equity guys do.
Awesome. Greg, quick question. So how do you look at the bond market and see when shit is about to hit the fan, like in 2008, 2007, 2008?
It already hit the fan, dude.
What should we look for to see when fiat currency potentially collapses?
So it's not over yet, guys. And don't get me wrong, I hope that we are able to skate our way out of this, okay? The odds are not good, but let's hope for the future that we are not walking around with a bunch of Bitcoin memory chips in our head or whatever that phrase is. I know I have some. I have them in my safe at home, and I have a keys, and I have a wallet, and I own Bitcoin on exchanges and all this stuff. But I really hope it doesn't come down to the point where we are walking around and there's like mayhem in the streets, okay? So that's why I'm sounding the alarm now. So what do I look for? I look for things like repos, okay? I look at the repo rates. I look at the TED spread. I look at bank swap rates. I look at the plumbing of the financial system because banks are levered 25 to 1. Yeah. Your friendly Bank of America has 25 times as much loan exposure as they actually hold in risk-absorbing capital. Good Lord, how did that system ever get designed? And how is it that financial analysts have no clue how it actually works? Okay? These financial analysts out there saying, oh, Citigroup looks like a buy to me. It's it's undervalued at 72. I'm going to raise my price to 82. Guys, your equity capital in the banking system gets vaporized overnight when the system stops working. I've seen it in 1988 with Latin American debt. I've seen it in 2007, 2008, 2009, and I've seen it in 2020. The problem is the Fed is just papering over it right now in 2020. Why do you think the Fed was able to go or said they had to go into the market to buy high yield bonds? Very simple. If they didn't start buying high yield bonds, the equity market would have been thrown around with volatility that was 85%. It would have gone to 200%. Now, the markets stop working, in my experience. Markets stop working and functioning properly when equity vol exceeds 25%.
What year was that?
Oh, it in 2019, it went up to 85%. And then the Fed had to step in and make things right. They're going to buy high yield bonds. Why are they going to buy high yield bonds? Because there are 4 borrowers in the US market right now that if they get downgraded, those downgrades will overwhelm the high yield market. Those 4 borrowers, General Electric, AT&T, Ford, and General Motors. The debt on those 4 corporations is larger than the entire high yield bond market. Think about that for 1 second. Those 4 borrowers, if they get downgraded in credit quality to this mystical thing called high yield, they're twice, the US high yield market has just doubled in size. Do you think there's actually that many buyers coming into the market? Heck no. The high yield market will be destroyed and shit flows downhill. Okay? Senior debt, little risky. High yield debt, more risky. Fucking equity, see ya. It's over. Please understand capital structure arbitrage. Understand priority of claim. And go out and buy some hedge. Buy some default insurance. It's called Bitcoin. And the small man, the little guy, can buy default insurance.
I love the fact you call it the small man, because you talked about, I think it's called ISDEC. Before, for Lehman Brothers to buy that, you had to have a big seat at the table, and I think it was even in the movie The Big Short. You had to have a certain amount of.
Called an ISDA. It's called an ISDA, so it's an International Swap Dealers Association agreement. You have enough assets that you can actually buy and sell insurance. Now, the funny thing is, imagine this: you have just bought insurance on Lehman Brothers from Bear Stearns. Okay. So your insurance part, I'm pumped. I got insurance on Lehman Brothers. And then you realize, holy shit, my insurance company, the guy that sold me insurance, is also going down. Now I have to run out and buy insurance on my insurance company. And it becomes circular, and it's called contagion. And again, that's why shit rolls downhill. What do you think a guy who has sold insurance on Lehman Brothers is doing? He's running to the equity markets and plowing all the shit into equity guys because it's a subordinate claim. If the equity's worth anything more than 0, the bonds have to be worth 100 cents on the dollar.
Jesus.
Very simple. The guys that sold protection against default, they've sold a liability. If Lehman Brothers defaults, how am I going to hedge that? I'll go and short equity. And it becomes circular. And it's scary. And selling begets selling, and you don't sell what you want to, you sell what you can. And the margin clerk comes to your desk and taps you on the shoulder and says, you fucking guys were being redeemed. I don't care. You have to sell something because cash is cash and it has to be settled overnight. And this is what happens. And that right there, Anders, is the plumbing of the financial system that I look to, because when it starts, somebody says, who's that guy, Joe Weisenthal or Wiesenthal? Mm-hmm. Joe Wiesenthal really doesn't understand credit. I'm questioning whether he understands finance, because he said go out and buy Hertz common stock when the bonds were trading at 40 cents on the dollar. Okay. Hey, Joe, common stocks were 0 unless those bonds that are trading at 40 cents on the dollar are back trading at 100 cents on the dollar. So don't listen to what Joe has to say about credit quality. But the other day he said, it looks like it was just a spark in the bond market. And my answer to that is fires usually start when there's sparks. And if you turn a blind eye and say, oh, it's just a spark, don't listen to Joe Weisenthal. He has never traded anything in his life, it sounds like, okay? And I'll take him on as well on different things like capital structure arbitrage.
Hey,
because my kids need to know this.
I'll invite him on the show, man. Hey, Joe, if you're listening, probably not. But yeah, come on the show. We got one. We'll go into the energy segment later. But I got a question for you then. As you see the future of Bitcoin, you also understand there's the money you want to put in. There's the money you want to put in. Obviously, you've got anything that you have cash, $10,000 in the savings account. It's a no-brainer. Someone is new here. And I would never tell anyone to leverage anyone, but would you ever take a loan to put that money into Bitcoin? And if so, what do you think the future is? Like 5% you would take that loan? I'm curious.
Yeah, so I can't provide financial advice. Here's what I would say. Let's say you have
not on this show.
How about this though? Like, because I have I've made a few enemies, as you can imagine, in my life, and they be people that may say, "Hey, Foss is giving you financial advice." What I would tell you is this: everybody should have and needs to own a portion of Bitcoin, because if you own 0 Bitcoin, you're actually at taking a higher risk than someone who owns 5% of their portfolio in Bitcoin. So how do you get there? Well, let's say you have currently a mortgage, and so that's a form of debt, and it's collateralized with your house, and you're sitting on $10,000, and you're deciding whether you're going to prepay some of your mortgage and pay down your mortgage, or you're going to put it into Bitcoin. And I would say 100%, the lower risk path is to buy Bitcoin. I hope that answers your question. It's a de facto way of saying, well, you already have this leverage on your balance sheet, and you're thinking of paying it down because people love to prepay their mortgages. It's certainly in Canada anyway. I would take some of that money anyway and at least get a line, get some exposure to Bitcoin.
I'm laughing because I'm getting people that will send me a tweet of this guy that says, "Oh yeah, look at this drawback, 10% this week." And I say, "Listen,
let's talk in 20 years, okay? Please." That's
exactly.
Time preference.
No context of any 2-year period, any 4-year period. They got no idea. And to take out, for me, a 30-year mortgage. Imagine, you know what the U.S. dollar is going to be valued at in 30 years?
Right, you got the math right. It is capital.
It's zero
using fiat destruction.
Zero, man.
Scarf anymore because you guys have gotten me like, I'm upset. This is for my kids. I have to take the scarf off because I'm talking to all kids out there. Okay, this is not a drill. This is the real thing. There ain't nothing else after this. This is the real thing.
I'm absolutely in the same camp. Absolutely, there's nothing
Bitcoin
else.
Energy. Let's talk Bitcoin energy and mining. I think you wanted to go there, and I'm involved.
I do because that's the biggest FUD. That is the biggest FUD right now too. We're going to boil the oceans with Bitcoin, and I want to go there with you. And also, disclaimer: I also want to do another show with you and our good friend Denver Bitcoin involved with this.
I love the kid, and we are sort of competing right now, but the market is so big that there can be more than one winner. And absolutely, Adam O, who is Denver Bitcoin, and I have talked on the phone and shared emails. I love what they're doing. This is good for the global energy space. Converting waste energy into Bitcoin is actually greening the environment. I know it's crazy for people to think, but go to our website, validuspower.com, or our Twitter handle @PowerValidus, and see that we can wheel in 35 megawatt machines and be up and running using flare gas in 6 hours. 35 megawatts, guys. This is a jet engine on wheels. There's a reason I took turbo machinery at McGill. I don't know what it was in 4th year when I took it as an elective, and I certainly didn't need it to graduate, but I said, you know what, I'm going to take turbo machinery. And I'm pretty happy I did because I understand jet engines. I understand wheeling a jet engine in on a trailer truck. I understand cleaning the gas, running the cleansed gas through a 35 megawatt jet engine, creating electricity and mining electricity all at a waste flare gas site that otherwise would be venting into the atmosphere.
Yeah, otherwise that would have been what they would say is this is dirty, this is something else. But guess what? Bitcoin solves that problem. So you take the flare gas.
It consumes energy waste. It does not waste energy. Let's be very clear about that. It consumes energy waste. As Ross Stevens from NIDIG said, civilization has grown up around ports, okay? Big cities tend to be close to ports of call. In the future, civilization will move to cheap energy sources that will be able to mine Bitcoin. Civilization will move to these currently unusable energy sources that can be used to mine Bitcoin and also power cities. But the first thing you need to do is have a revenue stream there, and that's what Bitcoin does. Okay.
Yeah.
Listen to Ross Stevens talk with Michael Saylor. I think it could be
brilliant.
two of the smartest guys
Brilliant.
ever
Yep.
in the same room. Hey, and Ross Stevens, he's Goldman Sachs. Okay. I did a lot of trading with Goldman Sachs. We weren't always on the same side of trades, but we understand risk. And he put it succinctly as I've ever heard. Money has always been a technology for converting your time, your work, or your energy expended today for consumption in the future, right? That's what money is. If you're on the top of a hot roof in the middle of summer and you're 18 years old and you're sweating your balls off, and all of a sudden, 20 years later, when you go to use that energy and time and work that you've expended when you were 18, and it's worth 1/5 of what it was worth when you were up on that roof, are you happy about that? God, no. You didn't sit in the blazing hot sun putting on roofing tiles to lose 50% of it because the government decided to print more. This is a farce. It's a Ponzi scheme. And it's called conservation of energy. And that's why I love the energy and this beautiful engineering solutions that we have field tested for 4 years. Okay. We have field tested these turbines in dirty gas environments for 4 years. That Texas energy collapse could have been solved if we had our engines out in the fields running, Bitcoin mining, and then when the energy grid needed excess power, we flipped the mining switch to providing peaking power to the grid. It would actually stabilize the grid. Bitcoin mining can be used to stabilize the electricity grid so that what happened in Texas with this once in a decade or once every 100-year storm doesn't happen again. Bitcoin miners mining Bitcoin, minding their own business. They're a backup store of energy. And then when the grid needs it because it gets walloped and everything else starts collapsing because it's dominoes, bingo, flip the switch, put this power into the grid and stabilize the grid. So, you know, there's so many exciting things happening. Bitcoin is the revolution that I'm happy to be a part of because it starts and ends with mathematics, and it starts and ends with laws of thermodynamics, conservation of energy, all this stuff, right?
Great. Let me tell you something right now, and this is what I realized, that we are of the same generation. You remember probably the summer of 1982?
1982. Let me tell you where I was. So I was graduate. So I was first year university. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Who shot JR? Because Who Shot JR? The show was called Dallas.
Oh
and
yeah,
Dallas,
absolutely. Okay, yeah.
So Who Shot JR? Man, the oil fields of Texas were the place to be in the 70s. Of course, yeah, the Dallas Cowboys. And so here we go. And yeah, so where do we go in the future? Yeah. When it comes to oil,
it's conservation of energy. Does Russia really want to receive worthless US dollars for their valuable energy that comes out of the ground? Think about that for a sec. Absolutely not. Does Saudi Arabia really want to receive worthless US fiat? Or if energy is priced in Bitcoin and these energy producers start receiving Bitcoin, guess what? The US dollar is no longer the reserve asset. It could still be used as a reserve currency and facilitating small, but then when Jack Mallers' Lightning Network comes up, you brush it right aside. This is not a zero probability event, you guys. And anyone that is saying it will not succeed has not done any probability analysis. $1 trillion market does not grow up in 10 years without something really, really special going on with it. And if you've never spent money around the world and it settles in 10 minutes with someone you have never met and you don't know where they live, and it settles in 10 minutes, it is the most beautiful technology I've ever seen. And I'm going to end on this. I did send Peter Schiff's son Bitcoin for his birthday, and I'm proud of it. And Peter Schiff called me an arsehole because he called me a fool. And I'll tell you what, Peter Schiff, I'm ready for you as well, okay? You are being a chicken. You're calling out Michael Saylor? Why don't you fight someone from Canada, and we'll see how this ends up, all right? You have done such a disservice to everyone listening to your garbage fucking calls on Bitcoin. You have cost so many people so much money. You should be absolutely embarrassed of yourself.
Hey, can I jump in real quick? Let me I'm going to jump in here because Pubby takes his notes. Can you guys see the one where it says admits to being wrong?
Correct. Yes, I see it right there. 3
you
lines
saw that?
down.
Yeah, admits to being wrong. That's the note I made from listening to your other podcast. I said, one of the things that impressed me about you, Greg, is that you said, I'm not the best trader ever, but you were the one that could admit to being wrong. And I respected that. You have to.
No one's ever.
I put it on a note because I found that fantastic, because that is the difference between someone I can respect and someone that is a shithead. But yes, you admit when you're wrong.
Okay, so look, I survived 32 years by not blowing up. How do you not blow up? You admit your mistakes and you take appropriate action to limit those mistakes, okay? The best hedge is a sale, okay? Let's understand. In the hedge fund business, everyone can say, I'm going to hedge this with that. I'm going to hedge A with B. Sometimes it's just better to sell A and not hedge and wedge yourself. You should just take the loss, turn around and say, I was messed up. I should not be long A. And you maybe not go short A right away, but by admitting you made a mistake being long A, don't run in there and try and hedge it with this other thing called B, and then all of a sudden you get squeezed on both sides. Take your loss. Your best hedge is a sale, okay? And with the respect of Bitcoin, I'm going to take it one step the other way. Your best hedge is a purchase, okay? Admit you're wrong. Your best hedge is a purchase of Bitcoin because it is the best default protection I've ever seen in 32 years of trading credit, all right? Please, guys and girls, please.
I get it. Listen, I go back out tomorrow. I'm finding a way to leverage more money. Michael Saylor has taught me that. You leverage things.
Saylor, let's no disrespect, okay? Michael Saylor could find the amount of money you want to borrow in his couch cushions, okay? Don't.
Yep.
I love what he's doing. He's a man of conviction. He's a visionary, but I am not advocating going out and levering yourself to the hilt, because you know what happens is the bank calls your loan at exactly the wrong time. Banks have an ability to panic when you least need your bank. That's when they want to lend you all the money. When you most need your bank, that's when they're taking their money back. Do not make yourself hostage.
I say this as sort of, it's not even a joke. I've been around here long enough where anything I would leverage, I can easily pay back if needed. Okay,
Attaboy.
I'm lucky enough. Okay, what I laugh about is I'm looking at like Jesus. I look back at the history, 12 years, 200% returns. I'm pretty safe if I can get something at 5%. I know he gets 75 basis points, or as Preston Pish would say, he could actually probably get negative rates for his next one. It's a no-brainer. The math is done. The patient is dead. There's nothing left to do in the world economy. There's nothing left.
I agree that from everything you said, it is the hedge. It is the anti-fiat. It is what I've been looking for since 1988. When my CFO told me, I know, don't tell anybody. I know we have a problem.
I never heard that one. Your CFO told you that?
On the record. I cannot lie on the stand. Exactly.
Yeah. Damn.
Not damn. That's not damn. It's like, oh my friggin' Lord. Because imagine at Citibank and Manufacturers Hanover and all these other banks that have merged and everything, the same conversation was going on. The Treasury Secretary of the United States does not panic and do a Brady plan if there was not huge problems in the too big to fail banking system.
Jesus.
I think MicroChat, our friend from the UK, said it so beautiful. The two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you watch Greg Foss tear the world a new one on THH.
Thank you, guys. I mean, look, I'm telling the truth. I'm too honest, right? I'm too honest. This is not about pretending there's not a problem. Anybody like Stephanie Kelton writing this book called The Deficit Myth has never traded credit in her life. You should not listen to a professor who's captive to an audience of buffoons versus someone who has traded risk their whole lives. I'm not talking about me. Listen to Ross Stevens. He worked at Goldman Sachs, the center of the financial universe, and he gets it, okay? This is about a new monetary energy that will replace the fiat system because the fiat system is bunk. Very simple.
So here's a question for you. The smartest people in the room, and it's something they've always asked, is how do the rest of them don't get it? I don't ask it anymore because I know they do get it.
Here's a neat thing. So who do they work for? They work for an institution that's 25 times levered. They're not about to say, hey, don't you guys realize that I'm 25 times levered as well? And if I run around the room yelling fire, they're gonna look at me and say, yeah, fire is right. You're 25 times levered. So all these guys like Jamie Dimon, don't you think he is somewhat conflicted in not wanting Bitcoin to succeed?
So you're absolutely right, and I know that's always the question, the exit strategy. From their perspective, what is their exit strategy? Ours is we keep buying more. We don't give a shit.
Well, their exit strategy is they're going to start trading it because. So here's a neat thing, right? So there's this guy called Mr. Wonderful. Do you guys know who he is? His name's Kevin O'Leary. He's on that thing called Shark Tank in the U.S.
Yep.
Okay, so he's a Canadian. Right? You don't know him. Okay, Mr. Wonderful. So first of all, Mr. Wonderful was on a podcast, or excuse me, he's on CNBC with Pomp, right? With Pomp, and Pomp is going at him, and Mr. Wonderful, who has a follower of like grillions of people because he's on TV, so he must be really smart, right? Because he's on TV. So Mr. Wonderful is telling you, don't own Bitcoin, don't do this. It's all a bunch of it's a crapshoot. And so he's got a little twisted on shit coins versus Bitcoin, but he's on against Pomp, and Pomp held his ground, and God bless him, he did such a great job. Now, Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary, has formally come out, I believe, I haven't seen the announcement myself, and says he was wrong on Bitcoin. Thank goodness Mr. Wonderful has realized that he made an error. But he's just like one of thousands of other people that were intellectually lazy at the outset and did not do the research required to understand what Bitcoin is, what it solves, and why it is the most beautiful financial technology ever created, certainly in my lifetime. Okay, so if Mr. Wonderful can change his mind, I think that a guy like Econ Guy Rosie, who is Canada's most influential economist, can probably change his mind as well. But why did Mr. Wonderful change his mind? I'll ask you that. And my sense is he was on with Pomp, and he was telling Pomp right around Christmas time, my clients, my fiduciary responsibility to my clients is that I cannot own Bitcoin. Well, what if some of his clients said, hey, O'Leary, smarten up, because if you don't start owning Bitcoin, I'm going to take my money somewhere else. Because they had done the work, and they forced O'Leary to do the work himself. I'm throwing that out as a potential, but here's the cool thing. Sometimes the client knows better than the asset manager because the client is not intellectually lazy. And the asset manager will say, I've always done it this way, and as long as the guy down the street who's my competition is not doing it, I don't need to do it. But think of what Saylor has done. He has opened the eyes of not only every single CFO, but every single investment bank and every single Jamie Dimon whose daughter told Jamie, hey, Dad, you know what? You should look at this Bitcoin thing. There could be something there. And that's the beautiful thing about freedom of speech, freedom of coding, and mathematics.
So I wanted to ask you about that, about the sheer numbers, because, you know, we talked about the 900 trillion, called a quadrillion, and that's just like the natural order of what is out there. What can blow my mind here for a minute is when you can take on a 5-year convertible note, a senior note, and push that value down the road into Bitcoin. It's infinity. It's infinity. Oh, shout out to Knut Sonholm, a big fan of the show. Always have him on. You talk about infinity with only your cash. Now you got infinity on credit being divided into 21 million right now.
You know what you're doing is you're making money on both sides of the trade. It's the perfect hedge, right? It's like, you know, your house isn't really going up in value, you guys. It's the unit of account to measure the value of your house going down. So don't be fooled. Now, I'm not saying real estate is losing value, but here's a really cool story. One more story about Foss, and then I'm going to leave. You guys have had enough of me. Did you know that
I challenge that, Greg. We have not
uncle,
had enough of you. I feel we should be going for the THH record because this is fire.
Okay.
You are fire, Greg. We love you.
Listen, buddy. My great uncle designed the first automobile in Canada. Okay. You can go on the website right now. It's called fossmobile.ca.
Is it called a sled?
It's an automobile. It's a running automobile. In 1897, he had a running automobile in Canada going around a town.
Were reindeers involved?
Were reindeers?
Involved?
No, you guys got to listen to this because this is how funny things happen. Okay, he designed an automobile called the Fossmobile, and Henry Ford came to him and said, "I love what you're doing. Do you want to go in business with me?" And my great uncle said, "No, I think this automobile, it ain't going to catch on." So he designed the automobile, one only, called the Fossmobile, declined to go into business with Henry Ford, and then sold that automobile for $75. Now, if there was no inflation in the world, you'd still be buying automobiles for $75 right now, everyone. In less than 220 years, the first automobile that was designed in North America by my great uncle traded for $75. I don't even know if you can buy a car for under, a new car for under what, $20,000 right now?
No, yes, you can. If you bought Bitcoin a few years ago.
Don't start. I'm talking measuring it in a unit.
Yes, of course.
Piece of shit, okay? No. You're measuring it in this piece of doggy-doo currency called fiat. If it was measured in Bitcoin, all right. Maybe if Bitcoin existed. Okay, here's a funny thing. Let's fast forward. Bitcoin was invented in 2012. 2009, and we're going to go out to the year 3009. Now that's too far. Let's go out to the year 2309. Yes, you could buy a car with much less Bitcoin 100 years in the future. Why? Because Bitcoin is not being debased, whereas fiat currencies are being debased. Again, it's only mathematics. Yeah. Inflation, Michael Saylor says, is 15% per year.
Yeah.
Look at the Chapwood Index. Look at the expansion of your monetary base. Here's someone says this new car in Europe is 7,800 pounds. So you got to don't forget the Canadian dollar trades at 80 cents of US dollar, and then the US dollar to the pound is what, $1.20 as well. So maybe you get a car in Canada for $12,000. It doesn't matter. It's not $75 like my granddad. Okay. Bitcoin is absolutely, as Marty Zhao is pointing out, Bitcoin is designed to pump forever because it's coded. Fiats are coded to debase, right?
Yeah.
Coding in fiats is debasement.
Here we go.
Coding in Bitcoin is fixed supply. Full stop. Do your math.
That's some heavy shit right there, man.
I love it.
Guess what? Up in price, number go up is coded in. It is so brilliant. The having, just you cut the supply every 210,000 blocks, roughly every 4 years to no one or someone that's new. But to see that is beautiful. And the longer you're in the space and you see the beauty of it, damn, there's nowhere else to go. There is nowhere else to go with any kind of fiat currency, anything you have of value. There is nowhere else to go besides Bitcoin.
And we lost you, Greg. Can't hear you now. Which is a big problem because, to be honest, me and Pubby are just like dropping our drawers here and enjoying the show.
Yeah.
Okay, that was peak. I'll tell you, Puppy. That was peak THH right there.
No,
We
he's
will
working.
wait for you, Greg.
Yeah.
Mr. Foss, we're gonna wait for you. Take your time.
Yeah. Greg, he nailed so much stuff there, man.
Dude.
And passionate, and the passion.
Yeah, that's what we love. Look, Greg has so much energy that I think you can mine Bitcoin with Greg's energy. Honestly, am I right?
He's not even trying to get on again.
No, we're not gonna stop. Greg,
get back on here. Get back on here. No.
Yeah, no. You're not allowed to throw the towel. We have 73 live viewers.
Get back in here.
Greg, we've never been here before. It's all thanks to your fire. Take your time. Like never. This is like when Bitcoin goes down in price. You don't panic sell. And you also do not panic quit THH. We're here. Puppy and I will use the opportunity to like.
Did it work?
No.
Check. Yeah.
Check. No.
We're good. We're back. We're back, baby.
I don't see Anders now.
We're good.
Though. Anders looks like he's frozen. No, he's been freeze.
Try
Anders
this, Foss. Wait,
nothing.
Puppy. Try this. Maybe if you exit and then enter on the link again, the link that we have in the DM chat. I think maybe your computer needs like a little slap in the face because I think you burned through the Duracell of that laptop. We are here. You better come back, Foss.
I promise you. Hold on.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
You're good.
You're good. You're good.
Okay, you can hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
okay,
man.
So I don't know what I did and I don't know what I didn't do, but okay. So this technology is going to catch on, you guys? This video streaming, I think it's really going to catch on.
We call it the internet. It's fantastic and everything.
Greg, you don't realize it, but you have now become a pillar of Toxic Happy Hour.
Yeah, listen.
What did I do?
Because you're good. You're bringing fire. This is awesome knowledge bombs. It's the energy. The energy means a lot. You know, communication is what 95% body language and energy, and 5% what you're saying. You're bringing both. You're bringing the package. You're bringing all 120%, Greg.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I'll be here as long as you guys want to keep talking 100%. So
I got
nothing to do except work, so that can.
I got questions. I got fucking questions, man. So 900 trillion was your estimate, global assets. I remember I heard you once say that Robert Breedlove said 500 trillion.
So
but there's a difference.
I love Breedlove, and I want him. I'm reaching out to Robert Breedlove right now publicly. I want you to be the CFO.
Yep.
I want Robert Breedlove, and I'm actually hoping that my phone would ring because I have a call into Breedlove right now, and I thought it would be so cool if Breedlove actually called me while I was on your phone. I want Breedlove, excuse me, not on your phone, on your show. I want Breedlove to be the CFO of this thing that we're designing up here in Canada, which is a joint venture that is going to take energy from the ground and put it into asset management via a funnel. Okay, so we're going to, it's like an hourglass. The bottom is the energy, sourcing energy, sucking sand up through the hourglass. The nozzle is the miner, and the funnel on top is the financial system that we're going to disrupt. Okay, we are going to have asset management. We're going to have custody. We're going to have banking with the most secure form of collateral ever created. We're going to have trading. We're going to trade Bitcoin miners. We're going to disintermediate the entire banking system. And it all starts with energy in the bottom being converted to this digital energy called Bitcoin, sitting on top of a platform that disintermediates the banking system, not using leverage. Once again, not using leverage, using the most secure form of collateral ever created in the history of mankind. I want
couldn't agree more.
CFO. Can you guys get a poll out there and ask him to come and work with us, please?
Well last time we had Breedlove on, Puppy, what happened? You didn't fall asleep, did you?
Well, there's some technical difficulties. Apparently, Yeah, I had a good time going out with some coworkers, and then I passed out in front of Robert Breedlove. Yes, true story.
Okay, well, look,
It
he's
happened.
the man. I've had some great conversations with him.
It's the
So
man.
why did we bring him up? So he thinks it's 500 million, and this is funny.
Yeah, but yeah,
He is a book value guy. I'm an enterprise value guy. I trade debt. He's not allowed to take my debt and net it against assets. Okay, enterprise value is debt plus market value. Breedlove is only taking the market value. That's 500 million. I'm stacking another 400 trillion of debt on top of it. So Breedlove says 500 trillion. And I joked with him. I said, that's what makes us a good team. You're an equity guy and I'm a debt guy. And you can't just shuffle me off to the corner, Mr. Breedlove. I have $400 trillion and I'm super senior to the thing you're looking at. You cannot net me out. Okay, it's a theoretical conversation, but I believe I'm right. Okay, 900 trillion is the number you should be using. All good, because even if you use 500 trillion, the numbers still blow you away. Breedlove could be the banker of the future. By the way, he's a master's of accounting. Yeah. The man is brilliant on so many levels. If he was the CFO of this company that I'm setting up, it would blow the world away.
Listen, all I want to do is this, man. At the end of the day, in Montreal, I'll just be the guy behind the bar when we take that $900 trillion, when we get 5%, and every Bitcoin is now worth 2.5 million. Look, I'll just pull some beers for you, man. I'll go up there. I'll pull some beers.
You don't need to be pouring beers. You'll own 7 of our pubs, okay? And you'll be the pub lord because you did a smart thing. So our pubs own Bitcoin. We actually own Bitcoin. My pub partners are partners in 3IQ Equity, the equity of the fund company that brought. Really? Oh yeah, like come on, Canada's. You know, we didn't just fall off the turnip truck, okay? We know how to manage risk. And switching from bar shares into shares of a management company that brought the first exchange listed Bitcoin fund was a brilliant trade. And I had partners within my pub company that did that trade. And I'm very proud of it.
You should be. Poppy, this is really, you're the one who told me a long time ago that Greg Foss was one of the most underestimated people in Bitcoin, and you sure got it right. You sure got it right.
Maybe, guys, I've been involved in since 2016. I just didn't know what the power of Twitter was, okay? Like, I still don't know how to block people. That's cool, right? Pubby, I was looking up. You got to tell me. I thought I had this conversation with you about my granddad, but I'm like, how do I check tweets that I've had with somebody to see what conversations I've had with somebody? I'm sure there's a way of doing it on Twitter. I just had no idea. So I had to come right out and ask you right on the DM, hey, did we talk about my granddad? And sure enough, luckily it was you, right? Because I would never have been able to find who it was if it wasn't you.
Wait, dude. Oh, wait. He's back. He's back. Okay. Greg, I don't know what happened. But I like that you wanted to put Puppy in the center here. He's been screaming for a bit of center stage. But we had a question earlier in the chat, Greg, that I think is really relevant, and I would love to hear your take on. How do you see the end game of fiat and Bitcoin play out? What is the end game looking like?
So let's be honest. It could get really ugly, right?
Yeah.
It could get really ugly, and I don't want it to get really ugly. But the end game, if you believe in pure mathematics, it's already a done deal. It's just a question of how long we can keep snowing the public. How many more authors can come out like Stephanie Kelton saying it's a deficit myth? And by the way, she teaches kids in college. That in itself is a crime. Okay?
Yeah.
She's actually influencing the thought process.
Never mind, Puppy.
Yeah. So just trying to readjust here.
I'll retract that. It's not a crime. Freedom of speech is a fair thing. You just That being said, when you have not done the mathematics, if you think that you can write a book and say that the deficit myth is a deficit myth, I'm sorry, but it should be absolutely destroyed in a journal like the Wall Street Journal. And by the way, if you ever want to see a good commentary on that book, read the op-eds and what people thought of that book in the Wall Street Journal. Guys, you cannot write fairy tales. We're dealing with real money. This is not about taking other people's money and pretending you don't have to pay them back. That's not how capitalism works. That may be how socialism works. But did you know that Vladimir Lenin said the best way to destroy capitalism is to debauch the currency.
Yeah.
It is scary. It is scary what is happening, you guys. We are losing control and we are socializing losses at the expense of the kids. We're socializing losses for those people that made the wrong lending decision or whatever right at the outset. So I am going to have to pull the plug, you guys. I have another thing I have to go to. I'm a little bit late for it right now. So I really, really, really appreciate the opportunity. I'm sorry I did, debauch, D-E-B-A-U-C-K for Sebastian Stacking. Look it up, Vladimir Lenin. The best way to destroy capitalism is, maybe I'm pronouncing the word wrong, but it basically means is to debase the currency. Lenin knew what he was talking about, okay? Do not listen to people that are dressed up as Lenin, but writing books on deficit myths don't matter.
Of course. Foss, Greg Foss, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on today. The chat has been going crazy. Absolutely loving your pretty much 2-hour rant. It's been a real pleasure, man. Or sir, the knowledge.
Man, absolutely, man. And I'm a plebe, okay? I am the plebe.
Thank you, plebe.
I want this for my kids, and anyone who doesn't want this for their kids is just being plain selfish. Okay, do not sacrifice the future of our kids because you failed mathematics.
I agree. I just want to. I have only one correction. So you said you are a taco plebe, but here on Toxic Happy Hour, we are shawarma plebes, thanks to tahini and Ali's wonderful food. We are.
Let's all get together in Canada, and we'll open some shawarma stuff in Montreal in concert with the Old Orchard pubs. Old Orchard pubs in Montreal with tahini's restaurants, and we'll rock the world.
Awesome. Thank you very much. From me, from the bottom of my heart, Greg, thank you so much. I just absolutely love having you on. And I really hope that we can persuade you to once again make the mistake of appearing
anytime, 100%, anytime you want me. Okay, guys, this is too important to not tell the world.
Not only do credit. Listen, I'm going to say, Greg, you're coming back on with our boy Denver Bitcoin and you.
Denver for sure. Breed love.
Anyone breed love? If I can get him back.
These guys are helping to change the world, and I'm just doing my small part from a different perspective. I grew up in the credit markets. The credit markets are misunderstood by just about everybody in the world, but it is the market that will benefit the most from adopting the Bitcoin standard.
Thank you.
We'll be there.
So on that note, I want to tell everyone, word of warning, this is our usual outro. Be careful to not store more value in fiat currency, dirty fiat currency. It has a built-in policy of destroying the value of your savings and they convince you that it's good for you to take the value of your savings. Stop and think. Think about Bitcoin. It's built-in number go up technology. And fiat is built-in number go down technology. So careful about that.
Absolutely programmed, math and code. And yes, I hope to go to Miami if our border ever opens. I would look forward to seeing you guys in Miami.
How did you know?
We're in Miami, man. We're there. We're there.
Well, it'll be a pleasure, guys. And Someone just
Yep,
said,
we're there.
MG Smith 4. I see you. This is Greg going to
Yeah.
Bitcoin conference in Miami. I am. I went to my first Bitcoin conference in Miami when it was really a Bitcoin conference in 2016, and it was absolutely awesome. And one thing I love more than anything is learning from smart people. And Bitcoin community is some of the smartest people I've ever come across in my whole life. Okay, so I love learning from you guys.
Awesome. All right. Thank you very
That's
much.
part of the show. Thank you, Greg.
Yes. Let's do the. There we go. Come on, Puppy. Come on.
What do you think, man?
Bring it.
There we
go.
Love you guys.
Love you guys. Thank you.
All right. See you on the next one, man.